Anger is rising against immigrant in general and Muslim in particular in Western countries, in Europe and North America and other parts of the Western world. And it's very unfortunate that certain elements within Muslim society, especially different clerics, are advocating a hegemonic ideology. Every second day, you can see videos on TikTok and YouTube with Muslim clerics talking about converting Europe into the fort of Islam. There are many who proudly say that we have converted so and so church into an Islamic center or religious center or madrasa as well. There has been a lot of public display of religion by Muslim as well. And naturally, people in the Western world are wondering that they have not seen many Hindus blocking the main road, putting their idols and worshipping them. They have not seen many Christians carrying the Holy Cross, blocking the main road, creating inconvenience for people, and performing prayer on the main roads or public spaces. We have seen a lot of videos of the speaker corner of London and other places where Muslim preaching groups are attacking, or exchanging hot words with the Christians, hurling abuse or curse at their religion. This is really infuriating certain section of Western society, and this is something which is also exploited for by the far right forces. There are Muslim groups in Canada and the US who proudly say that we will impose caliphate here, taking jizya or a special tax from Christians, Jews, and other people. And so this is really disturbing. And this is prompting many people to question if Muslim could face mass deportation from the Western world. What Muslim fail to understand that there is a history of Muslim fear. Naturally, Muslim did try to invade parts of Europe in ninth century, and there have been cases where some European leaders somehow defeated them. The Umayyad started attacking Byzantium Empire in the early centuries of Islam, or rather in the first or second century of Islam. Then there was the famous, siege of Vienna. Muslim also captured southern Spain, ruling over there for more than 700 years. Although they had assimilated, working together with Christians, working together with the Jews, and permitting even some Jews to hold key posts in some of the city states of Muslim. Then historically, of course, there has been animosity between the Western world and the Islamic world, with the Western world launching crusades, accusing Muslims of creating problem for the Christian pilgrims, plundering and looting them, desecrating their worshipping places. Historically, the Western world, or some people at least, some section in Western world, view Muslim with suspicion. They believe that Muslim have always, craved to dominate the Western world. They believe that Muslim conquered some of the holiest places of Christianity. There was a time when Jerusalem was under their control, Odessa, Antioch, which was one of the holiest places of Christianity, Alexandria, that houses a number of Christian holy places, Hagia Sophia and Istanbul, which used to be the center of Christianity as well. They all have been under Muslim control for a long time, and of course, many of them went under permanent control of the Muslims. And then, of course, different Muslim rulers did try to invade parts of Europe, which were repulsed. Of course, Muslim did have presence in part of Italy and some other parts as well. So, such attempts by the Muslim rulers to capture a different part of Western Europe were viewed with suspicion in the past, were fiercely resisted. And when today certain Muslim groups say that we would convert Europe, to Islam, and we are converting European people or Western people to Islam, and one day Islam will be the most dominant religion. Of course, it creates fear among the people. It is it especially sends a shiver down the spine of those Christians who are fleeing from Muslim countries after facing persecutions, taking shelter in Europe and Western world. For instance, many Christians faced persecution in countries like Kenya, Nigeria, a terrorist group like Boko Haram, terrorist group like Al Shabaab, and terrorist group like Islamic State. They not only persecuted Christians, but some section of Muslim and also Yazidis. And many of those people have also taken shelter in Western world. So when Muslim publicly display religion, when they talk about hegemonic ideology, when they assert that they would impose caliphate or global caliphate, when they assert that they would set up Sharia court, when they say that they will try to take jizya or special tax from Christian and Jews, this would not go down well. And then they try to compare the freedom that have been granted to Muslim to the freedom that Muslim countries accord to non-Muslim living in Muslim countries. For instance, let's say, can Christian in Pakistan, or let's say in Indonesia, or in any other Muslim country, let's say in Iran or Saudi Arabia, um, there are not many Christians in Saudi Arabia. Of course, immigrants were there. But can they publicly take out any procession? It is also the matter of public inconvenience, because in countries like Pakistan and India, when certain sects of Muslim take out procession, for instance, Shiite, when they take out procession, there are sections of Muslim who resent it, because such procession tend to create problems for traffic. They disturb traffic flow. They also disturb businesses. The same could be said about Barelvi groups when they take out processions, and they are also resented by Deobandis, because such processions create problems for traffic flow besides affecting businesses. So why would like Western people tolerate it? Of course, they have been tolerating so far, but if it goes on, and if Muslim keep on following a certain interpretation of Islam dominated by the orthodox clerics, then it's going to create problem, because this orthodoxy is prompting certain section of Muslim to talk about global caliphate, to talk about hegemony, to talk about imposing Sharia, to talk about taking jizya from non-Muslim, to proudly announce that they have converted 300 churches or 200 churches or 10 churches into mosque. They are setting up religious institutions, creating a generations of Muslim who is hating secularism, who is abusing Western secularism, who does not want Western civilization, but they still want to live. The question is that if these certain Orthodox cleric really want caliphate, they really want Sharia, then why can't they simply move to Afghanistan, where they have Sharia, where they have women covering from head to toe? And even covering women from head to toe is not agreed upon among Muslims. It is only a particular interpretation of Islam. If even today, if you look at the Western world, and vast majority of the Muslim women do not put on this particular veil covering from head to toe. In many Muslim countries they do not do that, perhaps except Afghanistan. So if they really want to do that, why can't they move to those countries? Then they never protest against the atrocities committed against non-Muslims in Muslim countries. For instance, how many these Orthodox clerics, how many of them have condemned the brutal treatment of the Muslim that is meted out to, let's say, Christians in countries like Nigeria, Kenya, and other parts of the world. So Boko Haram kidnapped a lot of Christian girls, selling them. Islamic State or Daesh, sold many Yazidi girls in slave market. They established modern slavery. How many these Orthodox Muslim condemn it openly? So this is really driving certain section of Western society insane. They question the rationale of granting these freedoms to the Muslim living in this in the Western world, asking as to why the same freedoms cannot be extended to the non-Muslim living in Muslim world. In the same way, they are really furious over the attacks on secularism and especially freedom of expression. Europe and Western world has a long tradition of freedom of expression. There have been Christian thinkers in this world like Nietzsche who denied the very existence of Christ, who criticized Bible, who criticized Old Testament, who criticized the scriptures of Jews and Christians both. So when Muslim tried to put curbs, certain section of Muslim tried to put curbs on the freedom of expression in Western world, it will really drive indigenous people or local people in the Western world nuts. They will really, get furious over this attitude. So what Maulana Wahiduddin of India said that Muslim, where are they living? They should become a no problem community. Why should they resort to the slogans of hegemonic ideas? Why should they propagate against Western civilization? Of course, there are certain aspects of Western civilization which can be criticized in a reasonable way. But talking about hegemony, imposing global caliphate, saying that Christians and Jews would be relegated to the status of second class citizen and Muslim would be taking jizya from them, that is going to have catastrophic impact. The Christians in Western world have bitter memories of the past. So if you have bitter memories over a certain issue, you will always get concerned. Like, for instance, when we talk about Russia as to why it got alarmed when NATO or the Western countries started making efforts to include Georgia and Ukraine into NATO, because Russia has a bitter memory. It was destroyed by Napoleon, it was invaded by Hitler, killing more than 27 to 40 million Soviet citizens. It was dominated by Polish, uh, uh, Polish Lithuania Commonwealth, right? So it has a history. So if Russia was invaded twice from the western border, so naturally it will be concerned. In the same way, if Muslim and the Western world have bitter memories in the past, if Muslim have captured holy places of the Christian, which are still resented by section of Christian societies in Western world, if they tried to dominate in the past, if they had crusade in the past, which were fiercely fought by the two groups. So now, when certain Muslim groups start claiming that they would impose caliphate, they would dominate Western world, they would abolish secularism, they would abolish Western democratic system, they would put curbs on the freedom of expression, they would put all these women into, well from head to toe. They would have very contemptuous attitude towards women, judging women by their dress only instead of their character, their honesty, their transparency. Then it is not going to go down well with Western society. So therefore, it is important that Muslims, vast majority of whom is simply trying to work hard. They have fled their own countries. They are trying to help their families. They are trying to seek a better future. But there is a tiny section of Orthodox mullah who are more or less parasites, who are not working at all, who are living on government funds and donations of the Muslims, who are really hardworking. And these mullah never bothered to think most pressing issues of Muslim society in Western countries as to why our girls are being forced to marry their own cousin, despite an overwhelming amount of evidence that such marriages could result in congenital diseases. They are not stopping them. There are at a limited scale, but there is this phenomenon of honor killing within Muslim community. There is like female, what we call certain female, circumcision as well in certain section. And there is this a problem of drugs in certain section of Muslim community, unemployment, poverty. They are living in Western world, in many parts of Western world, in poverty. These are the most pressing issues. But for these mullahs, for these orthodox clerics, these are not important issues. Instead of sending Muslim kids to prestigious universities in Western world, they are trying to establish more madrasas. In Western world, they are trying to more establish more orthodox center that are just propagating hatred. This is going to be very catastrophic, and Muslim living in Western world should pay heed to the advice of Maulana Wahiduddin Saab of India, who said that Muslims should become a no problem community in the countries where they are living, respecting their laws, respecting their rules, respecting their principle. Of course, they will have legitimate right to protest or express their criticism over certain aspect as other citizen of Western world have. So it's important that Muslim pay heed to the advice of Maulana Wahiduddin Sahab and many others like him.